Hi there, it's Ruth here at artfulstampin.co.uk. I'm wanting to make a pretty card using some of the flowers from Cake Soiree and also use the free DSP that's available during celebration at the moment. You've only got to the end of March to be able to claim this for free. It comes in a set of 12 pieces and you get 4 designs, gorgeous designs, and here they are. And they're called the Springtime Foil Speciality Designer Series paper, but they're actually more like a cardstock. They're quite thick. Right, I had quite good success with the last video doing some brayering over the top of it, but this time I wanted to actually just stamp directly onto this and have the kind of the foil dots show through. So I'm using a lot of the florals from this set. So I'm going to use Melon Mambo with the lovely rose. Yes, I know I've got brown ink around there. I used this stamp set for a workshop with some older folk who perhaps their eyesight wasn't quite as good as mine, and they didn't realise that they'd actually pressed down the wrong way onto the ink pad. They pressed down like that. So yes, I do know it's got ink on it, but hey ho, there we go. That's what happens. So I'm just stamping directly on, and the paper is just taking the ink so beautifully. It really is showing up very nicely on here. I don't know if it would, let me just see if it's dried. No, it's not dry, so you might just need to wait for it to dry before you go ahead and use it. I'm hoping it will be dry by the time I finish the design, but I could also always get the heat tool on there just to dry it off. Okay, so I've done some clusters of roses. I've done sort of little clusters of 3, and if you ever kind of come to do a design like this, you're not quite sure what to do, I find working in 3s does help. So I've got, is this pumpkin pie here? So I've got some pumpkin pie, and I just wanted to add a few more flowers onto there. Just see what happens. And again, I'm kind of clustering them together. I just have one poking through over there and there. Okay, yeah, happy with that. I think it's time to now pop some green on. So I've got Wild Wasabi here. This is a very kind of springtime summery palette I'm going for. So I'm stamping off and stamping again. Now that is picking up a little bit of the pink off the side of that ink because it still hasn't dried. So I recommend just stamping off to clean the stamp before using it again. There we go. And I do wonder how long this is going to take to dry. Oh, I forgot to clean off, but no, it's just a little bit of orange on there. That's okay. Cope with that. A bit more there. Pop one there. Up on there. I do love stamps like this because you can create your own designer series paper from your own stamps, and you can match the colours perfectly to whatever project you're wanting to do and whatever colour scheme you have in mind. So that's looking pretty, and I like how these leaves are kind of like framing the roses to really make them pop. Oh, down in this corner as well. So the idea is I'm going to cut this up and use it on a card. Now I did want to try and get some additional colour into the background there, but I am a little bit concerned about trying to sponge any colour on while this is still wet. So I'm actually just going to dry it off with my heat tool and come back to you. So to make sure that the ink is fully dried, I've just grabbed a little tissue to rub onto there just to check, and yeah, it's getting there. It's not quite as dry as I wanted, but it could be that actually the ink that's coming off onto my tissue is the ink that is on the foil. Yeah, I've got a feeling it is actually. Yeah, so it's worth going over with the tissue just to clean up the ink that is actually on the foil dots. All right, there we go. Now I'm wondering whether to put in and get another colour. How about this yellow? And get a sponge from my collection of sponges. Let's see if that's clean. Yep. I've just got some, now which one is this? Crushed curry here. I'm just going to sponge in some colour in the background. That seems to work quite well. It doesn't matter if it overlaps onto the flowers a little bit, because the colour seems to go well. If you wanted just to be brave and maybe add a little bit of the pumpkin pie, I'm just popping a little bit onto my sponge and adding that in. Well, that seems to work well. It's nice not to have a flat, just single colour background. Okay, right, isn't that pretty? So next, I want to cut this up. I've already cut a piece of very vanilla cardstock here, and I thought what would look nice is just using a strip here. Might be able to get 3 strips out of this design. I think if I get that one and that one, yep, that's going to work. So this is already a 6x6 piece of cardstock, so I'm going to cut that at 2 inches. And then I'm going to have to just trim off the edge so that I can fit it onto my card base. And I think what I'm going to do is stick that on with dimensionals to have that pop away from the card itself. And what would be really nice is to put a sentiment from this stamp set. And the fonts on these are so pretty. So this one says, "May your day be as wonderful as you." So just going to check that my stamp looks fairly straight on there. Now, just a tip when you're stamping with the wooden blocks, I use my grid paper, and with my eye I'm lining up the wood with one of the grid lines so it looks parallel, and then I stamp, and I like to just check that that is actually parallel, because you know we are only human, and sometimes when we're sticking the stamps on there we might not quite angle it correctly. So to make my life easier, I'm going to put this sentiment at the bottom and just match up my eye line with the bottom of the block and the bottom of the cardstock. I'm just going to put some pressure onto that and lift off. There we go. Okay, I'm going to get some dimensional. I'm going to use some of the really thin but thick, I say thin, I mean thin width-wise, but thick dimensionals. It's designed to use for shaker cards, but I really like that it's a little bit thicker than our normal dimensionals. I'm just going to lay that across the card, and actually look, you can rip it, so it's, you don't need to have your scissors on hand, you can just rip it off and place it on. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more of this, get that stuck on. There we go. Because it's such a pretty piece of cardstock, it's nice to show it off a little bit more by having it further elevated from your card. So I'm just going to eyeball that to match it up. Hope for the best. Oh dear, it moved. Okay. And there we have it, a really simple but very pretty birthday card, or whatever sentiment you'd like to put on. So just a reminder, that was Cake Soiree that we used with melon mambo, wild wasabi, some pumpkin pie and some daffodil delight, with the Cake Soiree stamp set and the free designer series paper that you can get during celebration, the Springtime Foil Speciality Designer Series paper. Right, so if you'd like to purchase this stamp set or any of the inks or whatever you see, please head to artfulstampin.co.uk and I'll be pleased to take your order for you. And please use the current hostess code and I'll be able to send you out a free gift next month. Right, take care for now. Bye.